I want to tell you a few things about John that you probably know, and then I'm going to tell you a few things that you probably don't know, and then we'll talk to John about these things. John is a critically acclaimed, multi-award winner, platinum-selling singer-songwriter with over 6 million albums sold so far. Probably know that already. But he has 10 Grammy Awards. He has also won an Academy Award and a Golden Globe for his song Glory, which he just released with, and he performed with Common for the film Selma. Added on top of that, he's won the Best New Artist category in the BET Award. He has won the Starlight Award from the Songwriter Hall of Fame. He's been on TV. He will appear in movies in La La Land later on this year, and he executive produced Southside with You about the first date, the fictionalized first date of the Obamas. And he's pretty much collaborated with everybody from Jay-Z, Kanye, Alicia Keys, to Meghan Trainor. Now here's some stuff you probably don't know. John was just named or ranked number 6 on Fortune's World's Greatest Leaders. He won an NAACP President's Award. He's volunteered during Hurricane Katrina and Hope for Haiti. He launched the Show Me campaign, an initiative that focuses on education as a way of breaking the cycle of poverty. John sits on numerous boards, including the Education Equality Project, Teach for America, Stand for Children, and the Harlem Village Academies. And in 2015, John initiated #FreeAmerica, a campaign that is making changes in our criminal justice system and helping introduce those who've served back into the working force to help make a difference. It all started with a simple hashtag. And what was really interesting about this was when I dug a little bit deeper, he's only 37. So think about all that he's accomplished already at 37 and what he has because of the voice and the platform that he has established. Think about all the opportunities he has going forward. But as I started to go through his Wikipedia page, I started to feel a little bad, so I wanted to check out how I was doing. And then I realized, I didn't even have a Wikipedia page, so I needed to get working on that. But John is someone who continues to inspire me and amaze me with all that he's accomplished. I look at what he and Chrissy have built and what they have around family and how family comes first. It's an inspiration to me with everything, and I think it drives me in what I do on the creative side at Time Inc. So please help me welcome John Legend.
Give me the green light, give me just one night. I'm ready to go right now.
Chris, thank you, brother.
I'm ready to go right now.
So welcome.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you for that introduction.
I was going to say, little overdone or all good? No, it really is impressive. I mean, you've accomplished so much, and it really is like going through that list is really impressive. And I just want to know, like, when you get up in the morning, what drives you? What gets you out of bed every day?
Well, Luna gets me out of bed every morning. That's my little daughter. She's almost 5 months old, and she's usually waking up around 5:30, 6 a.m. right now. So that's what's waking me up. But after that, I love what I do. I love making music. I love being involved in creating content that hopefully makes the world a more interesting and more beautiful place. Yeah. And I'm so lucky that I get to do that every day. I get to go to the studio and write songs. I get to go on stage and perform. I get to go meet with writers and directors that want to create great film content. And I get to do that every day, and it's a lot of fun. And so the ability to be able to do that and to love it and to make an impact on the world, it's a pretty awesome thing. And so that's what really gets me going every morning and makes me excited to face each day.
Well, I think we showed a picture of Luna up on the screen. I don't know if we still have it, but the cutest baby you'll ever see, the cutest couple you'll ever see. And, just speaking of family, you and Chrissy have a huge sort of social following.
Uh-huh.
Where do you, how do you decide to, or where do you decide to release those photos like when Luna was born, like through social media versus going through, you know, more traditional mainstream media?
We like to control our story as much as we can. I know that's not always good for people in your business, but we like to be our own publicists. We like to tell our own story, release the photos that we want to release. And we feel that mobile technology has given us the opportunity to do that, to be our own editor, our own publisher. And so we've taken that technology and used it in a way that I think connects us with the fans better, connects us with the world better, and allows us to control the narrative more than we previously could have in another era when it really was going through magazines and newspapers and publicists and press releases. But now we just release it ourselves.
No, believe me, I come from that side. I'm still, you know.
And it's more authentic for us because
that's what I was going to say. Yeah.
You know, we could have gotten a People exclusive or this or that. But we didn't want our fans to think that we were just trying to make money off of our child as well. And so we just did it for free on our own Instagram.
No, it's great. And believe it or not, I mean, I think if I did the math right, it was about 600,000 likes that you guys got. And
there's a lot of likes.
It's a lot of likes, and you know.
Luna's a like magnet.
She definitely is. But you touched, you know, this is a technology conference, so be honest, you know. How much technology do you have around Luna? How many baby cams do you have?
Oh, we have the baby cams. I was just checking it before I came on stage. She's awake now, so she's out of the bed. We only have the cam on the bed, so we don't have it all around the house. We don't like the idea that cameras could just be watching every move we make at any time, because you never know who could hack into something. But we do make sure that we can see Luna all the time while she's in bed. And then obviously we have phones and you know, every other device that you would need to communicate, to view content on the internet, and all those sorts of things. And we're big content consumers, I would say, as well as creators. So we make sure we have every means of seeing the content we want to see.
Yeah, exactly. Over the past decade, I mean, you've built your brand through social, and I love, you know, I still sit on the media side, but you know, obviously I love organic storytelling. So it's really true. What you and Chrissy have is like so genuine. You know, how do you distinguish, or how do you reevaluate that line? Because your personal lives and your business lives or personas are somewhat the same. How do you do that and sort of have some semblance of privacy?
Well, there's plenty of things we don't share. People don't know a lot of things about our interactions with each other. We just don't share everything. But we do feel that it's much easier to be truthful than to try to hide things all the time. It's much easier to be our authentic selves, publicly and privately, than it is to try to maintain two different personas. And so we're pretty honest on social media. When we think something about a political issue, we talk about it. When we when we like something, a movie we've seen or an album we just bought, we talk about it. And I think part of the reason is that what we're selling is us. Like, my music is me. My music is a reflection of who I am and my sensibilities and my taste. And so I'm already giving the fans a lot of myself through my art. And so I don't mind also showing them how I live to some extent as well. And I think Chrissy is similar in that way. And she's selling, you know, cookbooks. And part of her sharing with the fans is her letting them know the process that got her to making the book. So she's, you know, sharing Snapchats and Instagrams of the food she's making, and it shows people that this is authentic. This is us. This is who we are, and lets them understand the story that leads into the finished product that they see. Well, I love that you guys have embraced the technology. So
for whether it's a cooking show, it's through Snapchat or Instagram stories or just through, through Instagram or Twitter, that, how do you manage just the process of creating that content every day? I mean, do you have a goal that you want like 5 pieces of content every day? Is it just real natural?
Well, it's a combination. So there's a commerce side of it, and I have a management team, and we have a digital team that works for my manager, and so there's some aspects of what we do digitally that is very planned, and sometimes I don't even push send on the tweet myself. Somebody in the staff does at my management company. So some of that is just commerce, but you know when it's me. I'm just talking, about the things that are interesting to me. Anybody that follows me knows I talk about politics a lot. Yeah. That's all coming from me. That's all, probably to the chagrin of some of the people I work with commercially. Yeah. I'm very honest about what I think. Yeah. And I really try to engage my fans in a real edifying conversation about these things. And I want us to learn together. I suggest articles for them to read. And I really want to use particularly Twitter, I think, because I think it's the best medium for this particular conversation, I want to use it to actually help us all learn together. So I follow a lot of journalists. I follow a lot of people that have interesting thoughts about what's going on in the world. And then I try to share that and have a dialogue with my fans. Even with people that don't agree with me politically or ideologically, I think it's interesting to engage them, and so I do that.
Well, I like that you mentioned have a conversation. So it's not just you posting something, but that you're reading people's comments.
I read their replies and I respond. Sometimes I'm a little sarcastic with them if they're being assholes.
Yeah.
But I think most people, they just want to talk about what they believe and they want to engage. And I truly believe that we can come to an agreement if we talk things out and have an informed conversation. I think people aren't as different as we think we are sometimes. Even if you vote Republican and I vote Democrat, I think there's so much about us that is similar that, call me crazy, call me too optimistic, but I feel like if we have a conversation, then we can see each other's side and have some empathy with each other.
Yeah. Well, we're talking backstage because obviously all the comments aren't always positive.
Sure.
So how do you deal with that sort of negativity? Because, believe me, I try to post something and we're talking backstage and I'm like, oh, this is going to make someone mad. This is going to piss someone off. So I end up just not saying anything.
Yeah. I definitely censor myself sometimes. There's some things that I want to say, then I'm like, nah, it's not worth it. And then there are other things where I'll wade into a bit of a shitstorm, pardon my language. But sometimes I'll wade into it because I think the conversation is worth being provocative to help us all think about something, and hopefully it'll move the conversation in a positive direction. Yeah. And if I get too much negativity, sometimes I don't want to wallow in it, so I'll just not look at my Twitter for a few days, not look at my replies for a few days, and it's fine. It usually dies down after a couple days, and everybody that was so upset and outraged is outraged about something else a couple days later, and we all move on.
Well, I do want to talk about one sort of example, because I think it was, first of all, your response to it was unbelievable, and my wife reminds me of it every day. And I'll talk about, it was your first date night after you had Luna, and you guys went out on the town, and Chrissy got mom shamed. A lot of people called her out for going out on town.
Yeah, we went out for dinner. It was a couple weeks after Luna was born, and we have a night nurse, and we have my mother-in-law that helps out a lot, and so we can leave the child at home for a few hours. Yeah. And parents do that sometimes, as we all know. Mm-hmm. And what happened was Chrissy got a lot of criticism, but I didn't get any. Yeah. And so basically what I said was, if you're going to shame her, shame me too, because we both went out. Mm-hmm. Not that you should be shaming either of us, but we both went out, and we are both parents of Luna, and we share the responsibility. And so I believe in the 21st century, we should embrace the idea that men and women are both the parents of their children and share responsibility for what happens to the children.
Well, I mean, I'm with you. I don't think, you know, just because you have a voice doesn't mean that you can just throw comments out like that. And I don't think shaming on any side of it is even worth it. But your response to taking something that was negative, obviously you could have responded in any way.
Sure.
But you said, let's share the blame. And because of it, the responses that you got were, you know, you're the realist. Thanks for standing up for your true love. Please marry me too. Which, you know, which was odd because I think that was my wife who tweeted that. And I think she might be watching at home too, which is actually funny. But you're seriously making me look bad again. But it's an amazing story. But you know, let's talk a little bit about your music because you know, we sort of met. And I sort of followed you from the beginning of your career. So in 2004, you released your first album.
Uh-huh.
At that time, I mean, there was no Twitter. There was no Instagram. If you went to Harvard, there was the Facebook at the time. MySpace was, you know, out there. Did you have a MySpace account?
I did have a MySpace briefly, yeah.
I was gonna say, I think you still have it
It
technically.
probably exists, yeah.
Say,
I don't
you
know. I haven't seen that page in,
Yeah.
maybe a decade.
You might want to look at it. Yeah, there was no real social following. So considering that Facebook had just launched around that time, how has the digital landscape sort of shaped your career? Because you really sort of rode that wave and built this brand because of it.
Well, it's funny because when I first got to college, it was 1995. I was a student at the University of Pennsylvania, and that was my first time ever having an email account, 1995. And I was in an a cappella group, and we had, you know, a basic HTML website, and we would sell our CDs online. You know, we would get the orders online, but we would just mail them to people. And then as I started making my own demo albums before I got a record deal, I was basically my own webmaster / fulfillment center where I would take the orders, you know, people buying them. I would mail them myself. I would go to the post office and mail them myself. And then obviously things have evolved quite a bit since then. And now rarely are people actually even buying CDs anymore. We've seen so much change. And some of it has been a challenge for the business of selling recorded music, which is not the same thing as the music business because there's a lot more that's involved in the music business than just selling recorded music. But there has been a lot of challenge for the selling of recorded music, and as a lot of you know, that business has contracted, which has resulted in job loss, resulted in, you know, a lot of people who work in the business, from writers and producers and all other people in the kind of creative chain, there's less money in the pot for all of those people. Yeah. So that's been a challenge, I think, for the industry. For artists, we still have it pretty good because we can tour, and we make a lot of money on tour. We make a lot of money in sponsorship arrangements. Some of my sponsorship partners are probably in this room right now. So we have ways of making money outside of just the business of selling recorded music. But the simple fact is there's less money to be made in that area than there used to be. People are used to getting things for free or for much cheaper than they used to get them. Remember, we used to sell an entire album for $20. Now we sell, you know, a membership to Spotify for, you know, $10 or $20 a month. Yeah. And you can listen to every song that exists. So things have changed as far as what people are willing to spend on music, and that's just going to affect everybody.
What else I was going to ask, I mean, how do you think it affects people, how they consume music? Because
I think it actually makes music more listened to than it ever was. Yeah. So in that sense, music is more ubiquitous because we carry it everywhere we go. We carry the whole world of music as opposed to just one or two CDs. And so I think it makes it more fun to be a fan of music than it ever was. Yeah. And I'm a fan of music as much as I'm a creator of music. And so my music goes with me everywhere. I listen to it in the car, on my Bluetooth. I listen to it on my headphones at the gym. Yeah. I listen to it in the house, on the speaker system. So everywhere that I go, I can carry my whole library of music, and I think that's a beautiful, powerful thing. And I think it's wonderful for people that love music, that music can be so ubiquitous, so present in your life. And I think that's a wonderful thing. Obviously, it's had commercial impact on us, but I think it's made life better for the general populace. Music is more present in our lives.
Does it affect you and how you create music? Do you think about, like in the past, you would have to create an entire album, and you still do, and but do you think song by song, or do you still think album, or?
I still think album, and I think I'm a bit old-fashioned, as you can probably tell just by my music. I'm a bit of an old soul, and I grew up in a certain era where albums were the thing, and I still think it's, as an artist, the most important statement you can make is to make a great album. Singles are important, and they create awareness. They put you in the culture in a way that albums don't, because singles are consumed by more than just your core fans. Singles are consumed by anybody who happens to listen on the radio or happens to, get it on their Spotify channel or whatever it is. But albums are a choice to listen to. You have to go seek it out and choose to listen to it. So you reach more people with singles. But I think the most important artistic statement that I can ever make is, this is the body of work that represents where I am in my life right now, which, I'm in the process of finishing right now, mastering right now to put out later this year. That is still the big thing for me, is trying to create that special group of songs that has great individual songs, but is a body of work.
And how do you think, the sort of the new famous, or that they call the internet sort of sensations, technology really gives them a platform to be discovered, whereas in the past, you probably had to do a little bit more legwork to sort of get noticed.
It's still a lot of legwork. It's just a different kind of legwork. It's not, physically, going to different offices and, playing as many live shows. But you still have to make the content. You still have to make it interesting and make it something that people actually enjoy. And then you have to find ways for them to hear it. But obviously, it's made easier now through the internet. But that ease also makes it harder to push through all the noise, because there's so many people out there vying for attention, and there's so many people with easy access to distribution that you still have to find a way to cut through the noise.
Well, I think that's where, quality comes in, and,
Content is still everything as far as I'm concerned. If you don't have the quality, if you think about all the artists that are making an impact now, it's part of it is because they do interesting things marketing-wise, but no matter what Beyonce does on the marketing side, the reason why people care about her is that she puts so much into making a great album, making incredible videos, putting on incredible shows. The content is what is most important. And the release technique and the marketing around it creates some excitement, but it wouldn't be nearly as exciting if it wasn't good content.
Well, and we start to, you talk about Beyonce performing or you start to see, a growing appetite for live music. I love live music. I even download live albums. I think there's just another vibe to it. But, from small venues or multi-day festivals, how do you think how is that changing what you do? You talked a little bit from the business impact of having to tour more. Do you prefer the studio or the stage?
I love being on stage, and I don't think I'm touring more now than I would have. It's just a larger percentage of your income because the recorded side is a smaller percent. So the live just ends up being financially more important. But I still would probably tour the same amount, because you really tour more so to meet the demand of, here are the markets that really want to see you. Here's the markets that will support the size venue that you want to tour in. So it doesn't really, you don't really think, well, here's how much money I need to make up for the fact that I'm not selling as many albums. I don't really think like that. I just think, well, I have new music, and I have a bunch of fans that want to see it,
Yeah.
so let's try to get to as many of them as possible. And I love doing it. I love performing. I love connecting. I love hearing the fans sing along. And I think, actually, it's interesting, mobile has kind of been an interesting part of the concert experience now, because everybody's recording or taking photos and kind of creating this FOMO component where, you know, their friends aren't at the show and they wish they were there because they're seeing all your cool videos and photos from the show. And so I have kind of a love-hate relationship with that, because it's kind of weird to have to look at someone from behind doing this the whole time, and it gets a little obnoxious after a while. But I think it is a powerful thing on the marketing side to know that people are saying, hey, I'm at this show that I love,
Yeah.
and it makes someone else want to get a ticket so they can do the same thing.
Well, and wasn't Alicia Keys just recently asked everybody in the crowd to put
Yeah.
their phones down,
Yeah.
just enjoy?
And I understand why Alicia would do that, because I was here in Vegas, actually, at a Mariah Carey show with my wife, and it was really annoying to sit behind people
Yeah.
that the whole time we're doing this. And I understand why you want to do it, but to do it for the entire show
Yeah.
is kind of inconsiderate, and it makes it hard for other people to enjoy the show.
Yeah.
So it's hard to decide how to figure out the right balance.
Yeah.
I was thinking maybe I would say, hey everybody, we're all gonna video the first couple songs and you can video all of me at the end, but everybody put your phones down for the rest of the show.
That'd be awesome.
That could be an
That would be
idea.
great.
That was something I was thinking about, but somewhere or another, I think we have to think about, just because you can do it doesn't mean you should. And I think sometimes people have to be more considerate of the people behind them and
Yeah.
everyone else enjoying the show.
When you've done so many collaborations, who's out there that you really want to work with next? I mean, you worked with everybody from, you pretty much worked with everybody. I looked at the
Well,
list.
this album, I've worked with some new people that I hadn't worked with before. Chance the Rapper, who's been doing some exciting things in hip hop. I worked with Brittany Howard from the Alabama Shakes. I worked with Blake Mills, who's a great guitarist and producer. He produced the entire album. I worked with Miguel on this album. I worked with Kamasi Washington, a great saxophonist. So this album has been a chance for me to do duets with some people I never duetted with before, and work with musicians I had never worked with before. So I don't know who else is left, but it's been a good, every album I try to just push myself to expand and grow as an artist, and part of that involves collaborating with new people.
Well, I think we talked about your activism side and the work that you're doing really sort of came together where it met your music side with when you wrote the song with Glory, with Common. It won 7 major awards. It was really powerfully charged. And it had some historical tones and all the way up to even current day events like Ferguson. I mean, how important is that to you to sort of combine or use your voice in sort of both capacities?
Well, I think, like I said before, my music should be a reflection of who I am. If I'm being authentic, if I'm being honest, then my music should reflect all sides of me, not just, the side that thinks about my wife and my family, but also that thinks about what's going on in the world. And so what we tried to do for that song for the film, of course, was do something that spoke to the content of the film, but also drew parallels between what was happening in the 60s and what was happening on the streets of Ferguson and other places at that moment. And I think that's what made it powerful, was seeing the connection, feeling the inspiration of Dr. King's life and the wonderful things he accomplished, but also using his work as inspiration for work that we still need to get done.
Yeah. Well, and then, you're now executive producing movies. You have Southside with You coming out and La La Land coming out later on this year. How much of the South Side with You was based on reality, and how much of it was really fictionalized? Or did you just call it
in
Barack
case you guys don't
instead?
know, Southside with You is a film about the Obama's first date. Now, there's some public information about their first date. They've talked about the movie they went to go see and some other aspects of the date. And so our writer and director is a guy named Richard Taney, and he did this completely on his own. He didn't reach out to the Obamas. He was just some unknown writer, director that wanted to, he was inspired by their relationship. He saw the way they looked at each other and was inspired that this couple that seems to be really in love and to complement each other really well, that they actually became the president and the first lady, and a historic president and first lady at that. And when he read about their first date, he was like, I should write a movie and make a movie about their first date. And he couldn't know exactly what they spoke about. He couldn't know all the details. And so he had to embellish those, but he based it on what they've publicly said about it. And I think the spirit of it is true, even if you can't actually know if all the dialogue
But I think you have an inside track with the president.
Yeah, but we didn't get content approval from them.
I know.
They were aware that the film was being made, but they didn't want to get involved with it personally. And so it truly is a kind of a dramatized, fictionalized rendering of what we know about what happened that day.
And tell me about La La Land that's coming out.
So La La Land is a classic Hollywood musical. It's directed by Damien Chazelle. It stars Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone, and I'm third billing, way lower than those two, but I play a musician in it, and Ryan's character is a pianist who's kind of an old school jazz pianist and is very kind of bound to tradition, and I am an old friend of his who's also a musician but is taking a different path and kind of going a more commercial route. And part of his dilemma in the film is whether to stick with kind of a more conservative, traditional route, or to go out and do something a little more commercial that might not be as true to who he is as an artist. And so I wrote a song for the film, I co-executive produced the film, and it's my first really major role as an actor, and that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And Damien is incredible. His first big film was Whiplash, which was Oscar nominated, and I saw that, and it was my favorite film that year. So when he reached out to me to get involved with La La Land, I was a little skeptical about the idea of doing a Hollywood musical at this time. It doesn't seem like those things are popular right now, but I feel like if anybody could do it right, Damien could do it right, and it's beautiful. It's really so well done. I think it'll get lots of award nominations and all those things, not for Best Supporting Actor, but Emma is brilliant.
Yeah.
She's just brilliant in it. Ryan's wonderful too, but Emma's she's like a revelation in it. She's just magnificent in it.
Well, speaking of awards, this past year you were named number 6 on Fortune's Greatest World Leaders list. So
whenever I read that, I'm like, how is this possible?
Well, I think we laid out how it's possible. I think there's, a lot of what you've done has gone beyond just, using your platform, for, the Show Me campaign, for example, is about education to help break that circle of poverty. I read that you wrote an essay about it when you were 15.
Yep.
Do you remember what that essay said?
Yeah, it was for McDonald's, actually. Because McDonald's, because they feel a little guilty about how many Big Macs and fries people eat, they do some, community outreach at the same time. And so one of their community outreach programs was for Black History Month. They asked high school students to write an essay about how they would make history. And it was called the Future Black History Makers of Tomorrow competition. And I was in Springfield, Ohio, which is where I grew up. And so the Dayton area had a local competition for who would win this $500 scholarship. And I wrote the essay that won. And what I said was, I plan to make history by becoming a successful musician and using my success as a musician to be a voice for my community, bring uplift to my community. And my dad showed that to me after, almost 2 decades.
Yeah.
It's been since I wrote it. And I hadn't thought about it for years and years. But he showed it to me, and I was amazed by how my vision for what I wanted to do has lined up with what I'm doing now.
Well, I was gonna say, it must feel good for one, I was gonna ask, like, has it changed much? But it pretty much seems on track with what
It's very similar. I some of my politics are probably slightly different than they were back then, and I feel more aware of what's going on in the world now than I did then. But yeah, I think the basic goals are still the same, and I'm trying to do them every day.
Yeah. I mean, as education is, I think one of the emerging technologies which you see out on the floor here is virtual reality. I'm so passionate about it. We actually launched Life in VR here at CTIA, but because I think the one untapped area is education.
Sure.
Being able to inspire kids, being able to show them places they can't go or see things. I mean, what do you think about about that technology, rolling it out?
Well, I think it could be really powerful if enough people have access to it. I think a lot of it is access, because even now with broadband, part of the issue is access. And all of these things require that people have the resources to actually see it and experience it. And so I do believe, though, that virtual reality and a lot of other technologies allow us all to be more connected, us all to experience things that we may not have been able to experience before for much cheaper than we would have experienced them before. And I think that could be a really powerful thing for education.
Well, and I think, we talk about it today because I think, as you mentioned before, I think we're all life photographers in a way.
We're documenting everything.
We're documenting the world around us every day, and we're documenting this right now.
Yeah.
But, I would love to figure out a way to do something in education, because I think it's part of the VR experience is actually watching the people do it, because to see their face and their reactions is just, sort of.
Well, I've seen
eye-opening.
some powerful things in VR. I've seen refugee camps in VR. And I think so much about learning, so much about being a good human being, being a loving human being, is about developing your sense of empathy. And I think if VR can take you to a refugee camp and help you understand what their lives are like without you having to travel there, I think that's a powerful thing, because when we talk about the politics of some of these issues and we talk about the economics of some of these issues, sometimes we get divorced from the humanity of these issues. And to the extent that we can do that, and develop people's empathy, help them to see someone else's perspective, I think it's really powerful.
Well, and I think that sort of dovetails right into your sort of what started out as a hashtag and hashtag Free America, that having that empathy and having that, wanting to, this is hashtag Free America was to help reduce mass incarceration and help, rehabilitate and help them re-enter society. And I think having that empathy, is part of what is behind that movement.
Yeah, well, a lot of it for me is about storytelling, using art and using my platform to be a voice for people that are often ignored. So I started reading about the issue of mass incarceration a few years ago. I was an executive producer on a documentary by Eugene Jarecki called The House I Live In. And The House I Live In was about the war on drugs. And a huge component of the war on drugs is of course, locking up a lot of people who either sold drugs or did drugs or somehow were involved in drugs. And because of the policies of the late 70s through the 90s, we became the most incarcerated country on the planet. and by far more incarcerated than China, Iran, Russia, any country you can think of as repressive. We lock up more people per capita and more people in total than those countries. Even, China, which is, got 1 billion people.
Yeah.
We still actually lock up larger numbers of people than they do.
Yeah.
So that's just not a number. That's people's lives, that's people's families, that's people's parents that they don't get to see for, months and months and don't get to live with for years and years and years and decades. Some of them are wrongfully convicted, but a lot of them actually did the crime, but perhaps our punishment is way beyond what their crime was. And what I wanted to do with the Free America campaign was say there's a human cost to us locking up this many people. There's an opportunity cost because we're spending money on it that we could be spending on things that are more edifying. We're breaking up families. We're really harming certain communities. And if we want to be truly the land of the free, then we can't be the best people at locking people up.
Yeah.
We can't be the leader in locking people up. So that's why we called it Free America, because we believe we are free in this country.
Yeah.
And that's, part of our, it's like our brand is freedom.
Yeah.
But if we're leading the world and locking people up, we can't really carry that brand with full authenticity and honesty.
Well, and it led to President Obama banning the box on federal applications.
So a lot of people will, get locked up for a felony, and they'll be there for, whatever their sentence is, and then they're still serving a sentence when they come out because they can't get a job. Some states they can't vote.
Yep.
Some states they can't get housing. So we put all these obstacles in their way. Once they're free, once they pay their debt, we say we're going to make it impossible for you to live in the free world legitimately, because you can't get a job, you can't live. So you're going to start doing things that are criminal to survive.
Yeah.
So you're basically creating a system where you sending people right back to prison. Because you make it so hard for them to live in the free world. So we, along with many other groups, asked the president to ban the box when it came to federal contractors and people that worked with the federal government, so that people weren't being judged for their criminal record for the rest of their lives. We've asked states around the country to end the ban on voting for former felons. We want them to be able to reintegrate into society. And I think that's a humane thing to do. It's a smart thing to do, and hopefully we'll see more progress when it comes to that.
Well, and you once again leveraged social media by doing it through a hashtag, but you also did a live concert back in April outside of the prison.
Yeah,
Facebook
we've done
Live.
several visits in prisons around the country. We've been to prisons in California. We've been to state, county, federal, everything. We've been in Washington State, Texas. We've been to an immigration detention center in Arizona. We've visited state legislatures. We've spoken with police. We've spoken with victims of crime, families of victims of crime, survivors of crime. We've spoken with currently incarcerated people, formerly incarcerated people, pretty much every stakeholder, corrections officers, every stakeholder that is involved in this prison industrial complex, and all of them, every single one of them, believes we need to reform it.
Yeah.
Every single one of them thinks we lock too many people up. Every single one of them thinks we need to do a better job of when they're locked up, making it so they're prepared to face the real world when they get out. Every single one of them wants prisons to be more humane and more edifying and more compassionate. Every single one of them thinks that if people have a drug problem or a mental health issue, that they need a different kind of help than merely punishment. My mother had a drug problem. I know what it's like to have a family member with a drug problem. Many of you probably do too. And a lot of you know that the solution isn't often lock them up and put them in an unhealthy situation. a lot of times the solution is you need treatment, you need help,
Yep.
you need love.
Yep.
And so we're trying to spread that message, humanize all the stakeholders in the situation, and hopefully bring about some change.
So now do you know why you're number 6 on the world?
No.
Well, I mean, I honestly don't know how you do keep it going, but we're going to wrap this up, and we're going to wrap it up on a little bit of a lighter note. So
Okay.
we're going to move into the lightning round, and I totally stole this from Jess Cagle at People Magazine. He calls it the Cagle exercise.
Okay.
Not to be not to be confused with the others. But I'm going to give you you have a one-word answer, simple question. What is your favorite game on your phone?
Oh, Words with Friends, by far.
Still?
Yeah, I still am addicted.
Yeah. Most used emoji.
I just do the smiley face most of the time. But actually, I like using Bitmoji,
Oh, yeah. Okay.
where you can customize it with your own face, and I do that for fun sometimes.
Okay. Best Sports Illustrated swimsuit photo shoot.
No, well, of course, the one with Chrissy on the cover.
I gave you that one.
That should happen again, if you know anybody in charge.
I might be able to pass on a good word. As a child, I wanted to be.
I wanted to be a singer. I wanted to be the president. I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to be Ben Matlock. I loved me some Matlock when I was a kid. I wanted to be a defense lawyer for a while. But, those are some of the things I wanted to be.
Close friends would describe you as?
Ooh. Even keel.
I was going to say.
I think most of my friends probably think the most distinguishing thing about me is that I don't have a lot of emotional highs or lows. I'm like...
Nice. Your last meal would be?
Oh, I gotta have some soul food, my last meal.
Yeah.
Fried chicken, mac and cheese, and collard greens and cornbread with some peach cobbler at the end.
Some hot sauce? Always hot sauce?
I don't need hot sauce for my fried chicken.
No?
I put hot sauce on my collard greens, actually, though.
Okay.
A little Louisiana Red Hot or something like that.
Nice.
Yeah.
The song that makes you dance?
My favorite that makes me happy every time it comes on is Got to Give It Up by Marvin Gaye.
Oh.
I used to go out to parties.
Nice. The movie you watch the most?
Well, movies you watch the most are usually comedies because they're easier to rewatch.
Yeah.
So this doesn't mean they're the best movie I've ever seen, but I love watching Coming to America again, or even Wedding Crashers. There's certain movies that they'll come on TBS or whatever, and you're like, okay, I can do this on a Saturday.
I go to old school.
Yeah.
Old school, Will Ferrell sort of stuff.
All those movies are very easily rewatchable.
Yeah.
And TBS or Comedy Central or whatever, they'll play them on a Saturday, and no football's on, and so you watch that.
Who's the teacher that influenced you the most?
I would say my teacher, Mrs. Bodie. She was an English teacher of mine in high school, and she really helped me discover that I could write and gave me confidence in my ability to write.
Yeah.
Before that, I didn't really think I could write. I was actually more of a math fan leading into being with her, but she made me believe that I could write and be more creative. And I'd already known that I could sing, but I think becoming a better communicator and being more confident in that, she had a big influence in that for me.
Well, John, you are a husband, a new father, musician, producer, activist, philanthropist, and pretty much the coolest guy I know. So thank you for coming out to CTIA.
Thank you very much, Chris. It was a pleasure. Thank you.